Hello, I'm Bill Ferguson. Life doesn't just happen. We create our lives. We interact with people and we interact with life in a very particular way that produces a very specific result. Notice that the same type of circumstances keep showing up in your life over and over and over again. And the circumstances that show up in your life are going to be totally different than the type of circumstances that show up in another person's life. The type of circumstances that show up in each person's life are totally different, but what shows up in each person's life keeps showing up. The same things keep showing up over and over and over because we create them. Life literally doesn't just happen. We create our lives. As you discover why your life is the way that it is, you become more able to determine how your life's going to be. When you change how you relate to life, you change what happens around you. Now, the opportunity of life is to learn to live in the experience of love. When the experience of love is present, you're happy, you're alive, you're free, you feel good about yourself, you feel good about life. And if you look, don't you have a very positive attitude? Yes, you're positive in your thinking, your speaking, and your actions. And then you radiate that positive energy into the world around you, and what comes right back? Great things happen. To the extent that you live in the experience of love, you're going to create an incredible life. And this state is what's referred to as living in the light. Now let's look at the opposite. The opposite is the state of fear and upset. When you're in the state of fear and upset, you close down inside. You feel not so good about yourself, not so good about life. Your walls of protection are up. And if you look, don't you have a very negative attitude? You're negative in your thinking, your speaking, and your actions, and then you radiate that negative energy into the world around you, and what comes right back? Negative things happen. To the extent that you live in a state of fear and upset, you're going to create a very painful life. And that's what's referred to as living in the darkness. And whichever state you live in, whether you're living in the experience of love or a state of fear and upset, it never has anything to do with what's outside of you. It has to do with how you relate to what's outside of you. Instead of your circumstances determining the inner state, it's the other way around. It's where you come from on the inside is what determines what happens in your circumstances. The opportunity of life is to learn to live in the experience of love, because to the extent that you do that, you're going to have a great life. And that experience of love is actually the natural state. Who you are is pure love. And as you allow that love to flow through you into your life, you're going to create a life of miracles. But there's something that prevents this from happening. We're born pure love, but we're born into a world that kills it. So what happens is that in the process of growing up, every single one of us gets hurt, and we get hurt a lot. And as little kids, the only way we can explain these painful losses of love is to blame ourselves. Clearly, I'm the problem. And then we decide what that problem is. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth loving. I'm worthless. I'm a failure. I'm this, I'm that. And it's never, 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 never the truth. But in the eyes of a little child, it becomes our truth. In that moment of deep hurt, it becomes our truth. And then we spend the whole rest of our lives running from it. And any circumstance that comes along and triggers that hurt is perceived as a major threat to our survival. So subconsciously, all of our focus is on trying to make life and people be a certain way so we don't have to feel this hurt. But this narrow focus creates a state of tunnel vision that sabotages our lives. A good way to see this is look at what happens when you get upset. The moment you get upset, you destroy your ability to see clearly. And in that state of fear and upset, don't you have tunnel vision? Of course, all the focus is on trying to change the circumstances that we perceive to be a threat. Well, that narrow tunnel vision is what gets us in trouble, because the tunnel vision destroys our ability to see what works. It destroys our ability to find solutions. And in the tunnel vision, the only action that's available to us is some form of resisting, fight or flight, which then magnifies the problem. Anytime you have a relationship or an area of life that isn't working, every time you have an area of life that isn't working, that area of life will never be the problem. It's always the symptom of this underlying condition of resisting or hanging on that creates a state of fear, upset, and tunnel vision, which then creates the problem. And until you can find and remove these underlying conditions, nothing's going to change on the surface. But the moment you find and remove these underlying conditions, that area of life starts clearing up almost immediately. Because the moment you remove these underlying conditions, you restore your ability to see clearly. Everything looks different. You become creative, resourceful. And in that state, solutions, opportunity, and possibility show up that can never show up when you're in the state of fear, upset, and tunnel vision. So the name of the game in life is to develop your ability to learn how to live in the experience of love. And one of the key elements of that is to find and remove these underlying conditions and to find and heal the underlying childhood hurt that creates and fuels these conditions. And it's not difficult to do this. You just need to know how, and you need to take the steps. And that's the purpose of our work. All of our work is about supporting people in living in the experience of love, living in the light. And we walk people through the steps of finding and healing these underlying conditions and finding and healing this hurt, and then taking the action that people need to take to create incredible lives. And there's a number of things that we have to support people in accomplishing this. We've got workshops and seminars, we've got courses. We also have individual support. So if you'd like to be supported individually in your life, that's available. There's also a number of books that I've written on the subject. I've got CDs, videos, lots of things to support you in creating a great life. Now, there's a number of ways you can find out about what we have. You can go to one of my websites, which is billferguson.com, and that'll tell you the different things that we have. And then also the main page on Bill Ferguson gives links to other websites that we have that cover different areas of life. Now, the main program we have is a weekend workshop called Return to the Heart. The whole purpose of Return to the Heart is to walk you through the steps of finding and removing these underlying conditions, finding and healing the hurt that creates and fuels these conditions, and getting you grounded in who you are. And who you are is pure love, pure creation, pure possibility. And once you get grounded in who you are, once you experience very profoundly who you are, it forever changes your life. Because the circumstances of life never ever again have the same power over you. You start getting power over life, you become more able to determine how your life is going to be. Life is too short to have it be anything less than absolutely wonderful. And you can do it, but you got to take the steps. So come join us. I look forward to seeing you. Bye.